5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, boys.
Showtime. Showtime is go time.
Episode 14 is going down.
14 in the house. Yeah.
I got my man, Matt.
Let's do it.
Griffin in the house.
Let's do it.
And then, drum roll, please. The one, the only, Brett Dumas.
The funniest man on earth.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do my best.
Man on earth.
Definitely one of the best looking. We were talking about the beard when we first saw you walking down the driveway. Magnificent.
It's funny. I don't realize how long it is until I see pictures of myself and stuff. I'm like, man, that thing's out of control.
I couldn't even go that far. I get lamb chops, and that's it, man. That's where it stops.
That's all you get, really?
I can't connect. I just get the mutton chops, the lamb chops. That's it. It's done.
You're lucky.
I can't.
It's funny because a lot of people think that like I'm doing it for a reason, or I'm just cheap and I don't like shaving. Like razors are expensive, and I mean, I'm a realist, so how long does it take you to shave every morning? Like
Gillette ain't making no money for Brett right
it's
now.
like 5-10 minutes of your life every day for something you don't really need to do. So
The Dollar Shave Club is only making 25 cents.
Brett sees that commercial. He's like, all right, click.
yeah, it's really just cheapness and laziness. There's really no other reason.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm going to take some wine now,
Yep.
if you don't mind. What kind of wine we got going today?
This is a Malbec.
Since I know absolutely nothing about wine.
To me, that's red. That's all I know.
Looks like blood. That's good. Oh, that's good. That's good. I didn't hear you when you first said, say when. We're good. You might have to pick me up off the floor.
Yeah.
So there was years I didn't drink. So I got a nasty case of diverticulitis one day to a point where I was going to have surgery, and chances are I was going to have a colostomy bag for up to like 6 months. So nobody wants the bag. And it was funny because one doctor was gung-ho on surgery. He's like, we're calling the other surgeon in, my partner. We'll have you done by the morning. And I'm like, oh my God. So this other guy walks in and he goes, listen, can you stop eating junk food, McDonald's, stop drinking? He goes, because drinking is one of the number one offenders of diverticulitis because of the inflammation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, who wants to give up drinking? He goes, there's my whole Crown Royal.
Not on this side of the tracks.
And so I said, yeah, fine, I'll do it because I don't want the bag.
Yeah.
And so I went years, probably like 5 years, easy. I maybe had a drink here and there, but very, very, very rare. And so I just now, since we started the podcast, started drinking a little bit more. So far, so good.
That's what he's
but I don't.
That's what he's blaming it on. He's blaming it on the podcast, man.
Let's give this thing a whirl.
I'm a big fan of Malbecs. I'm not really like a wine person.
Yeah.
Well, I like drinking wine, but like I'm not snooty about it, and I'm not like a sommelier or anything like that. But of the wines I've had, I default to this a lot.
Yeah.
So.
I couldn't even. Many places I go. I mean, I'll fake it, but man, that glass goes by so quick. I'll be honest, man.
Yeah.
I can't. Even Mir looks at me. She's like, "Yo, you're supposed to sip it, right?" And I go, "I can't."
Yeah. Oh.
I never pictured you to be a beer guy though. But you like your beer.
Anything. It don't matter. Shoot, it's freaking any beer.
Yeah, that's
root beer, birch beer. Duff beer, man. I will have it. I have no discrimination to my beer, man.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, let's have a little toast to that. Brett, if people don't know, we go way back to high school. And if you're from Chicopee and you don't know Brett Dumas from back in the day, then you weren't from Chicopee.
I know Brett from the Lambert Lavoie days.
Yes.
Wow.
Second grade.
That's where we go back.
Yeah.
Did you go that far?
Yeah, man.
Wow. I didn't know
Lambert
that.
Lavoie.
Yeah. I transferred to Lambert in second grade, and Griff was in my class all the way up.
The double G in the house.
Yeah, Miss Bushy, grade 2.
Yep.
Shout out.
Who was third grade? I can never.
Miss Partika.
Was it
LL 3-12. I don't know anything else from Lambert but Field Day and LL 3-12. That's all I know. I don't even know what LL 3-12 was to this day.
Yeah.
It was something we did in that class.
Yeah.
It's
it was like I don't know. I seriously, somebody help us out with that back in the day.
Yeah,
man.
if you know the answer, chime in. Partika, I forgot that. I remember that all the other teachers.
Yeah,
but that
man.
one was, I was losing that one.
Partika, Sullivan.
And Sullivan
Kissel.
was only like half year because she was out, right? She
Yeah.
had like a kid or adopted a kid, and then Clark.
Miss Clark. I mean,
Yeah,
Miss
and then
Clark,
and
too,
then
yeah.
and then Kissel.
Kissel, yeah.
Kissel.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Kissel. The Jerky Boys, man. I wish those guys would come back full force. Those guys were unbelievable.
I think that's what the world needs right now is like a Jerky Boys. They probably go to jail or something now.
Yeah, I was saying, you
can't do that stuff anymore.
Dude, I mean, I used to listen to them nonstop over and over and over and over again, try to get all that stuff down pat so I could use it.
That was the thing, man.
Yeah.
That was the thing at whatever, what was that, 90?
Yeah, on cassette.
96, 97. That was, I remember people like Frank Rizzo. I'm like, who the hell is Frank Rizzo? And then all of a sudden you start listening, like, oh, shoot. Hell no.
I remember making mixtapes. Those, slow love jams.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
you got to
man.
turn the pencil to get it.
Hit them both them buttons at the
Cue it
right
up.
time.
Yep. We can, so I just bought this new interface, and there's 2 hookups for cell phones in here. So that's going to be part of the podcast down the road, is that if somebody can't make it, they can sit in their living room and do a podcast with us and be able to communicate. And it sounds just like they're sitting right next to us.
Oh, so you can have collars and everything.
Yeah, so it's going to get really ugly.
The funny thing,
I could get ugly.
I gotta say this because I was laughing when this happened, but when he first did that, and he's telling me, hey, I got this new thing and I'm gonna do. I got, we can get people to call in and all this stuff. So I forget what I was doing, and he called me, and I didn't answer, and I'm sitting there like, oh, Pliff called. I'm like, shoot. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't know if I was watching something.
Oh,
or
you
whatever.
were at a meet or something like that.
And this dude called. Yeah, I was at the meet. I was at the meet, but I was working, but I could answer, but I couldn't. Calls me, like, oh shoot, left it be. Calls me again. I'm like, I'm not gonna answer it. And I'm like, calls me again, and I said, and I was like, what? What do you want? He's like, oh, I'm trying to test
Just
out.
trying to test it out.
He's like, oh, I'm trying to test out
Somebody
how this
answer the
works,
damn
how this
phone.
sounds. It's like,
When I call, you answer the phone.
this dude was like, I got something new, man. Like, oh.
That was one of the challenges. So my son used to be, when we first started, was my audio video guy. So he made sure everything was done, and then he bailed after the fourth one. But he had the audio interface that we needed. He had GarageBand on his
iPad or
Yeah.
whatever, probably. Yeah.
So he bails, and I had to use Audacity. And I don't know if you know much about Audacity, but it's really made for one person.
Yeah.
So you can, like when Jeff Verteber was on and stuff the first time, everybody was going through one mic, even though we heard each other like we hear each other now, until you play it back. And it just sounds like tingy and crazy. Like,
Oh, because they're trying to overwrite each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like they were all coming through my mic. So this thing, I saw a podcaster do it on YouTube. So I actually reached out to him, and he answered me right back. He's like, listen, it's the easiest thing to do. It does everything for you. So I invested in that, and, and it's actually a really cool day that you're here today because my new posters just came in.
I was going to say,
Fire.
I don't
Fire.
remember, I watched a couple episodes.
Yeah.
I didn't remember seeing those,
Fire.
and I love them.
Do you really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, the choices are awesome. You got Hendrix walking, and it's diverse.
Yeah.
But I like the way they're done too. Is that all the same person that did
No,
those?
they're all actually these 3 are from the same person.
Yeah.
And that's from someone else. But
I didn't see that, but I like that.
even Marilyn Monroe, I mean, there's so much going on in that picture. We have drugs, we have JFK, the death mask, the diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Yeah,
I like stuff like that.
That's a Easter egg right there.
Yeah, it's like these are a few of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and the only one thing we were talking about this at the last podcast was I need to get a Lauryn Hill poster to put up, and then we're
Yeah, man.
everything will be complete.
Slide that one, boom, put Lauren
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. It's gonna happen. I found a couple, but they're if you look on Amazon, the name of the business is like JKPLMN or whatever. Like that's not that's how you get your credit card hacked. So I'm not doing that. So grown up in Chicopee, and you're still in Chicopee.
Still in Chicopee.
Chi-Town's
Yep.
finest, man.
Born and raised.
How's it feel to be still in Chicopee? Are you liking it still?
I'm looking forward to the day that I get out. I had the opportunity when I when I first bought my house, and we actually bid on a few houses kind of in Belchtown, South Hadley, and that didn't work out. So I ended up getting a house in Chicopee, where I need to be in price and everything like that, and it was everything I needed, and it was like a mile from my parents' house, which was perfect because they were a big part of like daycare and everything.
All right.
When my son was first born, that's why we bought the house. It was like 6 months after he was born, and the whole like being a homeowner, being a parent, like moving anytime soon, like got ruled out. And then it's like, next thing you know, now I got 3 kids. They're in the school system. I'm like, I'm not going to uproot my kids. Like, I don't owe a lot of money on my house. I bought it a whole bunch of years ago. I'm going to wait till they're out of school and then I'll find, I'll go off grid somewhere.
Yeah.
Are they all at comp?
My oldest son is a freshman at HCC.
Yeah, I was going to say.
My youngest is in 5th grade at Stryber.
Okay.
So he'll be in middle school next year. And then my middle son is a freshman at comp.
Okay.
Good old Chicopee Comp.
Yeah, man. CCHS.
We were in the old building, though. We had
it's not the same, man.
Yeah,
It's
not.
It's like a different world in there.
It's not, man.
Nothing like walking in down to automotive and smelling mold.
Well, the fact that they got a new school on a swamp, it's like, all right, is
technology, baby.
Is that sinking down, or they know what they're doing, man?
That was on the old football field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was all runoff and everything.
Yeah. Then that little sewer that was in the back, and the grass was either green or rust.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember just a little while ago, I don't know how I found this person's Facebook. She commented on somebody. I'm like, I don't remember who that is. So I clicked on her page, and she had her graduation, the film, on there.
I remember that.
And so me and my daughter and my wife watched it, and I was like, I was kind of handsome, but I didn't realize I was so handsome back then.
I was like, who's that skinny guy?
It's amazing seeing us the evolution of where we are now versus where we were there, because we tore up that town pretty good.
Yes,
I mean,
in
a good way, but we didn't.
No,
we
in a bad way. In a bad way too.
A little bit of both,
Yeah,
we left our mark.
Yeah.
The funniest party I can remember is when we were partying down at the wall. That was the one behind the cemetery, right?
No,
what was that one?
Walls
Walls
behind
by-
Ames, or behind
like-
Ocean State Job Lot.
Yeah.
Oh no, okay, so that wasn't it. What was the one behind the cemetery?
That's the pit.
The pit.
Okay, yeah.
The pit.
So I got Justin's mom, who has muscular dystrophy and can't walk on her own. Remember? And the cops come. I literally throw her over my shoulder, running through pickers and everything.
Yes.
And I had to put her down a couple times to have her like quiet. Yeah. She's like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get in trouble." They pick her back up.
I remember
that
that night, man. I remember that night.
That was funny. You can't even. I wish we could relive that one more time, like we are now.
The funny thing is you say the wall because there was a wall. You say the pit. There was a pit. The clearing, it was open. Like every spot, we just had the simplest name. It was nothing else but that. Man.
Yeah, there's no mystery where you're going to be.
Go to the pit. All right, I know where pit is.
Oh, I miss those days, man. I actually, high school for me was junior high sucked. Bellamy was Scott Estes. I hope he's doing well now, but that kid tormented me.
Really?
Yeah, he was the biggest kid out of school. And for whatever reason, I caught his attention. And his brother, though, was always a good egg.
Yeah, Eric's a good guy.
Eric's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk bad about him, but he was.
Yeah, either way, he wasn't a good person.
Yeah,
not to you anyway.
I always thought that when I saw him again down the road, that I would take care of him.
Yeah.
But I saw him at CVS years and years and years ago, and he saw me, didn't say a word to me, and I didn't feel like I had that in me anymore.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like I said, Eric was a stand-up guy. As the day is long, he was a stand-up guy. So it's funny how
it's a Lambert dude right there too.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep. So, as we get older, we kind of let those things go a little bit. Or lower down. Yeah, it's kind of in the way. I should probably move this, but I don't know where to move it unless I move it to the other side.
Break your thing.
No, it's all
flexible.
Yeah, it's all flexible.
It's high tech, man. It's
there's a lot of money invested in this.
Yeah, I like the whole setup, man. You went all out.
It's a progression though, because I started with the dream.
Hey.
And then
it was all a dream.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lean forward.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
So they feel a little more comfortable doing that.
This is good. And then I can
See.
So I lost my dad last year.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And so he thought he had like 7 more years to live. And then all of a sudden he's got 6 months. So as we were talking, he's like, what do you want to do? Because I didn't have any time left. Don't ruin your time. And I said, I want to start a podcast. I want to be like Joe Rogan, And he's like, then that's what you're going to do. And of course, him and Ha about it and stuff like that. And then my son's friend started his own podcast. And I'm like, that's it. That was like the spark. Like, I'm like, I can do this. So it was that frustration, though, of like, where do I start? I don't know anything about any of this stuff, I'm a simple man. And then next thing you know, here we are.
Right.
But it's taken people from other podcasts to help me out, Matt jumping in and being my co-host, because I think that's going to take us.
It's pieces. Just keep building it up, man.
Yeah.
You already had the foundation when you had the dream, talk with Pop. That was the base. And now just little by little, you just keep adding your pieces.
Yeah.
Man.
Most important thing is you took action on it. You had the idea, and like that's where 99% of the people fail is like idea to action. Like, so you did that. You're already there. Like you're already successful.
Right.
Because you did it. You implemented the idea.
And this guy's passion with doing this. I mean, looking into the newest, latest, or who does what in the area, or who's doing this, or somebody reach out, and it's like, I'm telling you, man. I said that from day one. This dude is all in with doing this, and it's you could see it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, look at you, all giddy, man, like a high school kid.
I mean, how can I not be giddy? We got Brett Dumas in the house.
Yes.
I mean, who would have thought all these years we'd be coming down doing a podcast together, right? This is just a cool thing.
I was excited when he said, "Yo, I got Brett coming on." I was excited, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Looking forward to this thing.
It's funny because like I told my wife, and she's like, "Really?" And so if you don't know, this is out of my comfort zone.
Is it really?
Right. So it took it was like a long road of self-discovery, but I'm an introvert. Like I
never would have said that.
No one would believe it. And I spent like, I don't know, let's see, almost 20 years in retail. And like,
you and me both.
Yeah, I had to
y'all.
talk to people every day. Like that was my job, talking to people, like strangers all day long. And then I went into banking, and it's still retail. I call it retail banking because you're still dealing with the public every single day. And then a couple years ago, I got a new job. We talked about that. And I don't deal with the people. I don't deal with the public at all. I get a few phone calls from people I have to reach out to via email, but it's all internal.
Right.
And what I noticed is like I came home energized, and I used to come home from work and like want to take a nap, and I'd like crash on the couch like involuntarily for like an hour. Like I was exhausted from like forcing myself to do something I wasn't comfortable with. And then I'm like, you know what? And I kind of I always thought, so when I used to go out, we'd go out to eat or just go different places. I'd always like push my wife forward, like, you go make the reservation, you go to give them your name for the table, like whatever it was. If someone needed to talk to somebody after work, I'm exhausted from talking to people.
Wow. I never thought, man.
And she just did it. And well, you wouldn't know, like people I know, like I'm a completely different person. But like if you put me in front of like people, I don't want to talk to anybody. And it was like this, I'm like, I'm an introvert. Like I don't like putting myself out there, and like kind of all like life flash before your eyes type thing. Like all these situations, like parties and social gatherings, where like I'm like in the corner until like someone initiates a conversation and stuff like that. And I'm like, so this pandemic thing's like a dream for me. Like, oh, don't leave the house, don't talk to anybody.
Like, I've been doing shoes.
Yeah,
I'm floored right now. I never would have thought in a million years. Man.
I tell people that, and they're like, no fucking way. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's just, and it's. It's something I'm working on. That's why I said, so I said to Paula, I was like, hey, I'm like pushing myself out of my comfort zone. It's like one of my developmental items for this year, or for 2020, through work, for my development plan is like to put myself out there and kind of, I'm never going to snap completely out of it, but I joined like Toastmasters, which is like a
we were just talking about that.
What is? I need to get down.
And I joined because it was like part of my development plan, and I've only attended like 2 meetings, and it's all virtual now, so it's even weirder.
Yep. So my wife used to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that's where she worked, same place.
Yeah.
For about 13 years. Her first day was a 9/11.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I can imagine. Pregnant, 8 or 9 months pregnant, first day.
Wow.
I was working, I was a store manager of Michael's in Avon, Connecticut. So I'm opening a new store up there. I'm like an hour and a half away from the house. And my buddy calls me from Florida, and he's like, get on the TV. And we had, back then we had this little 13-inch crap box in the back for new hires to watch their, don't steal. And here's how you ring a register.
The orientation videos.
Yeah. And we had that on, and our world changed for a little while after that. And, obviously what she did for work, she was in a call center, and it was crazy. I remember her come home that day, and it was the weirdest thing. I walked in, my mind was like in 50 different places, and she was just crying, and, like everything, we get through it, and we'll get through this whole pandemic. This pandemic, actually, as much as I thought I was prepared for a pandemic, and I'm no like crazy prep or anything, but I'm talking about like my mental fortitude. I'm telling you right now, I came very close to a breaking point.
Really?
Yeah, because I take care of my son's mother. I take care of my mother now, who's a widow. I take care of my wife, who's disabled. So I have a lot of different moving parts, even you taking care of your dad and your family and stuff like that too. And, you, as a man, we think we got it all under control. And then all of a sudden something comes in and just slaps the shit out of you and says, you got nothing under control, and I've always prided myself where I've always knew what to do, when to do it. My street smarts are, I think, is probably almost as high as you can go.
Yeah, always got the answer. Always got the direction. Yeah, I feel
there's
you.
a way. There's always a way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Find
You mentioned, your father. I lost my mother in the middle of all this.
Oh shoot.
Oh, did
Sorry,
you really?
man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, and that was that moment for me.
Wow.
Non-COVID related, but
right.
not expected. And I haven't talked, this is actually one of my first time really talking about it, other than like, immediate family and,
Sure.
and stuff like that. A few very, very close friends. It wasn't, my family's pretty private, so, we didn't do anything, public. And that was that moment for me. I'm same thing. Like I'm ready for anything. I always got the answer. Like I know the next step. And that hit, and I had a few breakdown moments.
Sure.
And I was just like, well, this isn't who I am. I'm gonna just push through this, and I need to be there for the rest of my family and stuff, and my father especially. So,
we're we all lost a parent.
Yeah.
So we are definitely part of a club that nobody wants to be in.
No.
You know what I mean? But like my dad said to me, because he's my stepdad. I met him when I was 15, 16, 17, right around there. I don't really have a relationship with my first father. But he told me, he's like, I gave you the tools. And I'm like, that kind of sat in my head for a while. Like, yeah, you did. And then, so we talk about forward progress all the time, right? So we do this funny thing where one of the great things that we've learned from the podcast is some people come out with these phrases and you're like, whoa.
Yo,
we look at each other at the same time all the time.
Yeah, man. Shoot. I've said keyboard warrior the past few days from what I'm going through right now. I've said that so many times, and I'm just like, Pluff, I got you, man. Like this dude.
Oh, was that a new phrase for you, keyboard warrior?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big Xbox guy, so like the keyboard warrior thing was always like people call me and tell me to fuck my mother,
Oh yeah. Let me see you in public when you're not behind the keyboard. I know exactly what you're
It sounds better than me going, people that hide behind their phone or their computers. I'm like, nah, keyboard warrior. There you go.
Yeah.
That works, man.
I did have somebody who pinged my IP address and showed up at my house the next day. Like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, this is a true story. I swear to God, it's on the head of my children. We were playing one night, and me and this guy were going round and round, and I knew he was cheating, so I called him out on it. And he was laughing and joking like it was funny. I didn't find it funny because I'm very competitive.
And what game is it? I'm not a gamer, but
it was Modern Warfare 3.
Okay.
So I heard him typing, and I knew he was pinging my IP address. And I heard him say just before he shut his mic off, "This motherfucker lives," and then the mic went out. And I'm like, so I messaged him right away. I said, I know what you just did. You better not come to my house. And he did. He showed up the next day, pulled in my neighbor's driveway, and his avatar was just like him, like perfect example of him.
Yeah.
And he left without any.
And everybody, once you're on there, right? Everybody can hear you. So if he's like, "Yo, this guy lives at this street," everybody's like, "Shoot, I'm about to put that in."
Yeah. And he definitely showed up. And I was like, holy shit. And it freaked me out a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. It was.
So
That's
I don't
crazy.
know. I don't know what he did after he left, but, he definitely showed up here. And my wife's like, that's enough. Because shit talking is part of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I definitely don't do that anymore.
That's wild though. Like
Yeah.
someone actually had the sack to like.
Where was he? You know where he was from?
Had to
though?
be local. And that's probably what his comment was.
Well,
like,
that's why he said he was-
Well, but that's what I'm wondering. Like,
Yeah.
is this dude driving hours with diapers on and
No,
trying to get here?
he had to be close.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Like,
if I had to guess, I'd say he was no further than Springfield.
yeah.
You know, because he was here kind of early.
Yeah.
So, you know, who wants to get up early to go to someone's house? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he thought that, number one, I wasn't going to be as big as I was. You know, I think he thought it was going to be some other scenario.
It's a little
you know?
scrawny nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, this is some 14-year-old living in his parents' basement, right?
So that's not what it turned out to be for him. But, you know, imagine having that. So, there's something wrong with you when you
take it to that level.
Right.
Yeah, like you're that mad playing a video game, regardless of what was said.
It's called crazy.
Because you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't even play video games, and I know, like, saying "go fuck your mother" is like just normal part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter what game you play, Roblox, and like, that's, you know,
Dude gonna snap and be like, you know what? I gotta find out where this guy lives, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. It freaked my wife out, my daughter home at the time,
that's fucked up.
you know, and even his voice, like when the minute he spoke, and I looked right at him, and we didn't say nothing for a second. Like, he looked back at me, and he goes, "Oh, I got the wrong address," but I could see his phone, and it clearly had my house, you know, on Google Maps.
Oh, so he never even admitted. You just knew
Yeah, I
based
saw
on
it.
like
Yeah,
everything.
I
yeah.
saw it, and you know, it was. I didn't sleep for a couple of nights because you don't know what he's gonna come back or.
I was gonna say, did he come for round two?
Nope, not that I know of. Not that I know of.
So what you saw him walking up that house, and you like met him out in the driveway or something?
No,
or?
so I was. Who was I waiting for? I forget his name, but he was gonna come give me a quote on putting a patio in,
Okay.
and he's like, "Oh, I'm on my way." So I was waiting
you were
for
already
him.
waiting out
yeah,
there,
and my driveway looks like my neighbor's driveway looks like my driveway.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
When you come around.
So he pulled in there, and he pulled all the way to the end of his driveway, right up against the garage.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's how you can see it.
Yeah. So my neighbor wasn't home, and so of course, we always look out for each other. So I went out there thinking that was him, and I was going to tell him, "Hey, my driveway's around back." And the minute he stuck his head out the door, I'm like, "Whoa!" Like that was him.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can I help you?" And his voice, and I'm like, "Motherfucker!" And my hair on my back of my neck stood up. The hair on my arm stood up. Like I without a doubt, I'm 100% positive that was him. And then. So as I got closer to the car, because now I'm going to close the distance, I'm not going to let him.
Right.
And then I saw his phone. So he had his phone like this, hanging right by where the side mirror was. And then I saw the corner of my street with my ping right there, the little red Google arrow.
Yeah.
So he gave me some bullshit story. I told him he needed to leave, and he promptly left.
Wow, that's wild. I can't imagine that.
And my best friend's a cop in town. He's like, "You should have called me." I'm like, "Dude, I didn't know what to do at that point in time. I didn't think anybody was going to show up at my house, you know." But he felt the need to go do that.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's the last time he tried that route with anything.
you know, if
That's a good point. Like, how many other times has he done that?
Yeah, probably any other time he got what he needed, and this time he's like, yo, this dude's got it.
Yeah.
but it's scary. But that's I only go in private lobbies now. I don't talk shit.
Yeah.
Not that I was a shit talker much to begin with, but you know when
It was enough where it
cheating,
fired somebody up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you
you
call
know?
him out like
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
So you own a business in Chicopee.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Owned and operated by my wife, IQ Inc. If I'll plug it.
Absolutely.
Plug it.
Hold on a
Yeah.
second. So this podcast is sponsored by IQ Inc.
I'll be happy to be
based out of Chicopee, Mass.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hey,
indeed.
if you want to throw
That's
us
a
up
free
there,
plug. That's a
yeah,
free plug
I'll
right
give
there.
you. We can do some weekly sponsorship if you want. We can talk about plugging it.
I need T-shirts.
Well,
That's
you
it.
know, it's funny. If I had the time, I was gonna make some.
Were you
as
really?
a surprise, yeah. But we
Oh.
just didn't. But what I need is like I saw, your little avatar, like you can't handle the ploof, intro. If you can send me that graphic, I'll get you some T-shirts.
Oh, that's sweet. Man.
And just get me sizes and stuff like that. I honestly was planning on doing it, but didn't have the time.
That's the homework.
To get
That's
it
the
done.
homework right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So IQ Inc. We do screen print, embroidery, everything from 1 shirt to 1,000 shirts. It was a business that I started on a whim through drunken conversations with friends. That whole idea to dream, type or idea to action type thing. Was like, I I probably come up with 10 business ideas a day, just different ways to make money. I'm always thinking.
Sure.
And this is one of the ones where I'm like, I'm going to follow through with it. And, from start to finish, I did. Started in my garage. And then, 3-4 years later, we bought out a local competitor and took over their retail location. That was where you went.
Yep.
And luck had it that, my wife got laid off, and because of the business we started getting into, she went to school for graphic design. She'd never been to college, but she started going to school for design, and she was, she'd been going to night school, and then she got laid off and was going full time for like several months. And then, serendipitously, this other business went up for sale just as she was finishing everything up, and her unemployment was ending from being laid off.
Yeah.
And we just like transitioned right in. So like she had like a week off of no unemployment, no school. And then she like took over the business, which is funny because I started this business, so I no longer had to work for somebody. I could be my own boss. And then my wife's like, "Oh, I'll step right in here." And, I'm still working for somebody and she's got her own business. I'm just like, I'm a shareholder,
Sure. Yeah.
But it's good to see. And honestly, I think we're 8 years in business now, and consistent year-over-year growth, which is you can't ask for anything more. Even in this last year, which was pretty tough for everybody, we've persevered, and it's still been a good year for us. So again, shameless plug if anybody needs any.
Where did the name come from?
It's funny. Another funny story. So that, the drunken conversations. That's
how it comes through, man.
Yeah, any of my drunken conversations for a good part of my life always involve Dan Martineau. So shout out to Dan Martineau.
Dan Martineau. I haven't heard that name in a while.
And,
Danny.
Yeah. And he came up with the slogan. It was "You think it, we ink it." And I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, well, now we got to, because originally we were going to kind of like partner with it. And, he had some other things going on. So, that didn't work out. But I'll give him full credit for the slogan and even stimulating the idea, because it was, just conversations around that. But after hearing that, I was like, okay, I got to kind of find something that goes along with that. I like that. And, I don't know where, it came from, but I was just like IQ, like you think it, IQ, IQ Inc. And then I kind of like visualized the logo, which, if you go to my website, you'll see it. It's like the Q has like a brain inside it.
Yeah.
And, I said to my wife, and she was going to school for design, like at the time.
Yep.
And I said, this is my vision for this logo. Like, I kind of want to have it to be a brain, like, coming out of the Q or whatever. And that was one of her first projects in a certain class, was like come up with like a business logo. I'm like, well, this is perfect. And she designed that logo, like kind of, off of us brainstorming. So the name just, I probably spent a week trying to think about something, and with that slogan, kind of as the basis, and it just all came together, and it was like an epiphany, like, oh, IQ Inc.
Yeah.
And it's worked, it's
How many years in business now?
I think it's 8. It's every time I want to know, I actually have to go. I go back and like right around the same time, I just basically go back and look when I registered the website, because that's
the start.
As soon as I had it, I was actually at work. This is when I was working at Sports Authority, and I'm like walking around, and I thought of it, and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the name. And so I like went in back office. I'm like on my phone. You're like, is IQinc.com available? And it wasn't. I'm like, what about IQ-Inc., which is my website, IQ-Inc.com. And I'm like, okay, this is it. And I registered the website. So I think it's 8 years. I think we're nearing a decade. I know it's definitely been 5 years since we've been in our current location.
Yep.
And I want to say
which is a great location, by the way. The traffic.
So much traffic. Yeah.
When we were kids, we used to, because I grew up right around the corner.
Yeah.
Taylor Street right there. And so we used to, me, Chris Bordeaux, Carl Bear, we used to go watch the cars slide down. What's that, Montgomery Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. Slide down, go right past the stop sign, slide into other cars. like clockwork, man. We used to sit right there and just watch it right in front of that building. Right
I hear
there.
about it every day now from my wife, because even when there's no snow and there's accidents a couple times a week, some good ones too. I mean, I hope everyone's safe and no one's hurt, but as far as accidents go, there's some exciting ones, I should say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've always been impressed with somebody who's able to start their own business. I don't know about you, but I've always wanted to start my own gig.
It's been thoughts and all these. I could never put pen to paper to try to do it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're the next Joe Rogan and sidekick.
The male Robin Quivers. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
I love it.
It's anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest key to success, especially for, I started this thing, I was in my 30s. I had
how old are kids?
Yeah, I had 3 kids.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I could just give up everything, and again, it was, serendipitous that, my wife got laid off and all that kind of stuff happened in the background. But initially, when this whole idea came to fruition, it was just saying stupid shit, kind of in a forum like this. And it was like, oh, that'd be great on a T-shirt. Like, how many times have you said that? Like, I'd put that on a T-shirt. Yeah. So I'm like, well, let's get some, we come up with stuff every weekend. Let's put these on T-shirts.
Right.
And another good friend of mine, actually, Dan Martineau's younger cousin, Ryan, worked at a screen print shop.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, how much would this cost to like get the T-shirts printed? So he wasn't in that part of the business. He was in the printing part of it, but he had some idea of it. So then I kind of just kept asking questions. And I was like, well, how much would this cost? How much would this cost? And I was like, well, hold on. I was like, how much does this shit to do it cost? How much does the equipment cost?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, this much and this much. And I was like, well, shit, why don't we just do that? And so I looked up how much it would cost, and I just started saving money. And I'm like, so I'm going to put all of our stupid ideas on T-shirts. And so I saved like a year and pulled the trigger and, made a big investment. And to this day, 8 years later, I think I've only printed like 2 of my ideas. Because I never knew screen printing was like this big of a thing. As soon as people know you do it, like my business is growing almost completely organically.
And people come to you with their own designs.
So I print other people's stuff all day long. But it ramped up so quickly that when I wasn't printing someone else's stuff, I didn't want to print my own stuff. Plus, I'm not an artist. I'm not a designer. Like, I might have the ideas, but I'd have to go to somebody and be like, hey, this is my idea, and I have to pay them. And, I'm just spend a whole bunch of money on a business. I don't want to do that. I want to pay for my investment.
Sure.
So, that's what I did. And then it just kind of kept ramping up. And, there's been a few instances where I've printed some stuff and put it out there for sale, and it's worked. But just doing kind of the contract work where people come in has been the basis of our business.
Right.
And, I'm still involved. I still, print.
Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah. So the initial setup that I bought 8 years ago is still in my garage where I started.
Wow.
So I still print, as needed. We do have, my wife runs the business day to day. She runs the shop. She does all the embroidery. She does all the customer interaction. I did it initially. I'm not a very organized person, so I did it kind of all in my head.
Sure. That's how
keeping track of orders and all that stuff. And then it was a godsend, really. Like, as things transitioned and got bigger, and that happened with my wife being laid off and going to school and everything like that, couldn't happen at a better time. She's way more organized than I am. And it was getting to the point where I was kind of losing track because it was growing too fast. If it would have went another year operating how I was doing it, it probably, I don't say it would have died, but it was stalled and stopped growing.
Sure.
But it continues to do well. And, I'm very, very thankful, for just the amount of referrals and the friends. And, those are the first people that, came. Like, as soon as people found out that, I was doing this, it was like, hey, I got some business for you, family members, friends. And then it just kind of grew. And again, it's been all organic. It's all referrals. I mean, I have like a, Google ad thing that just pushes me to the top, but I think I have my budget set at like $40 a month. I know there's business that's spending more than $40 a month out there, and I don't do any other form of advertisement. It's all organic. And honestly, it's, it's just the right amount, and we're able to provide the the best amount of service that we the best service to people we can, because we don't get overwhelmed. And we well, I can't say we sometimes we feel overwhelmed, but either way, so that idea of printing my own shirts, I don't do it. I still have a folder on my computer, like my ideas, and someday it'll happen, but it's blossomed into something great anyway, and I'm proud to say I'm a business owner. It's nerve-wracking, but it's a great thing, and I wish you the best with this. I hope it just keeps growing, because I like what you're doing already. And again, idea to action. It's just
man.
But it's like we talked about before. I had a podcast on Saturday with two people that had podcasts, and the reason why we brought this thing together on Saturday was, how do we get people to support us, especially friends, right?
Right.
So the night before, it was like 3:00 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I literally got out of bed. I'm like, you know what? This is essentially starting my own business, And what does a friend want another friend to do? Help come support the business.
Yeah.
But people get weirded out with this. It's not like where you do. Like, you walk in, you pick out a T-shirt, or whatever, and people like, well, what if I say something wrong? I can edit it out.
Yeah.
So we asked you some questions before. So one of the things we were talking about today was, from now on, I'm going to send out a Survey Monkey, and it's going to have all these questions.
That's perfect. Yeah.
So when they bring it back to me now, I understand more of what they want to talk about. And, a lot of people, after they leave the podcast, because I give myself 5 days. So if they have anything they want to say, or they want anything taken out, I can go ahead and delete that, but I try to make this as organic as I possibly can, so I don't have to do that kind of work. But I think it ends up being like that extra spice, right? When I don't have to edit anything out, we just let it flow.
Yeah.
Because we start some stuff and we'll have an agenda, and the next thing you know, we go off in a whole other area.
That's why I said, man, it flows. You again, what was the whole meaning of everything? Conversation. So once you start, and once you get it kicking, that's it, man, and it just goes. It's so smooth.
Well, that's one of the best things happen. When you just let it keep going and perpetuating, and you reach a point where if you didn't keep going, sometimes it's random, that you would have never ended up there. If you stopped it, you slowed it down. Well, hold on, I got to script this a little better. I got to ask a question. Like, no, unless it's going way off course, just let it roll.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what are you going to say?
Right.
That's going to make, you know what I mean? Some people, they get freaked out, and I get it. Like, I totally understand. So part of the podcast on Saturday was, how can we make people feel more comfortable? And people don't realize, like, when I ask them to come on, they're like, well, I'm not interesting. And you're like, no, you are. That's why I'm asking you.
Right.
You know, I'm not asking some guy down the street who I don't know, And for us too, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but for me anyways, and I can tell that you enjoy this, going back and having people from our past come on and start talking about, growing up and those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's been food for my soul. I don't know about you.
Yeah, man, because it's memories. It's walk down memory lane. We all have something in common, whatever it might be, and then you might hit on something, and then we'll chuckle and get like, oh, I remember that. Like you brought up the pit in the wall, where it's like, well, you said the wall, but we meant the pit. But I'm thinking in my head, damn, I can remember some stuff at the wall. Like, oh shoot, then I can remember some more stuff at the pit. So it's there's always some type of connection in there that works. And plus too, when it's also good that when we have old school people come on, and then it's like, we've known you since way back, and it's cool to see, as much as, people move, here's a couple of things. As much as people move and do things and get out of the area and do stuff, you're still in the area. You're successful. Yep. And it's like, damn, I've known this guy since we were 8, 9, 10 years old, or high school, and it's like, it's cool to see, us from growing up, and that guy, and I remember him, and I remember her being successful, and it's all aspects. Deanna last week, in her suites, it's like works of art.
Did you see what she did on her Facebook page?
I almost ate my damn phone, man.
So one of the things that's kind of happened spontaneously in the podcast, which is phenomenal, and I eat it up. So one day another guy that owns a podcast, lives right down the street, but he's into like, he does a whole bunch of rock and roll. He does a whole bunch of stuff for Striper. And like, if you're in the 80s hair bands, you know this guy. And he does a lot of stuff. He was having a real big mental block with a book. He's a writer. And he was doing something that was like nonfiction, but fiction at the same time. And we get done with the podcast. He's like, I just thought this podcast just made me finish my book. He goes, I just finished it in my head. I thought that was like the coolest thing since
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge compliment.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then Deanna comes on last week, and we're talking about Dee's sweet stuff.
These sweet stuff.
Who's this? Who?
Jeff Erdeber's sister.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave and Jeff.
Yep.
So we noticed on Facebook the other day that she started putting all these pictures on there.
Simple.
Yep.
Simple.
Inspiration. Like, she got motivated.
Yeah.
You know, because one thing me and Matt preach all the time is forward progress, right? Just keep going.
Keep it moving, man.
Yep. And doing what feels good and what feeds your soul. You know what I mean? And like I say it all the time, like doing this, I had all this. Like, I remember getting up in the middle of the night going, I'm not doing this. I'm done. I'm like, I can't figure out how to do the editing. My wife would be like, just calm down. YouTube's your friend.
Yeah.
Break it down.
So much.
What I do for work is all about helping people be more profitable in their business. So I have to take a deep dive into their business and start dismantling parts of it and rebuilding it for them, right? So, and I'm also a motivational person, so I motivate their staff. We have a lot of self-worth issues in my business. So that's the first thing I try to help out with, right? Because we all are put on this earth for a reason. And whatever that reason is, we'll find it eventually. But the self-worth of, like, I'm not worthy enough, man, if I would have known this back in the day when I was a manager, I could have done so much better.
Yeah.
You know, because, we both came from retail. We're both store managers for some big box retails. That was not a fun job sometimes, man. And
It's trying. It's trying.
especially when you're trying to motivate people to be business people who aren't business people. And, thank God I had some great leaders that I reported to. But I remember applying to Circuit City back in the day. And I don't know whatever happened when I didn't get the job, but Chris Bordeaux was working there at the time. Then you went to... Where'd you go after that closed down? Because we both closed down two businesses. I had Leechmere and Caldor.
Yeah. Let's see, Circuit City. Then I went to Sports Authority.
Yep.
I actually did a short stint selling Mercedes-Benzes in West Springfield.
Oh, wow.
Only because a friend of mine was a
Fathers and Sons?
No, it was Lubar Imports.
Okay.
On River Road there.
Oh, yeah. All the way down.
Yeah, this little shitty Mercedes-Benz.
You said Riverdale.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yep.
And a good friend of mine was that I worked with at Circuit City was the sales manager there, and I was like, hey man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I didn't want to go back into retail.
Did you sell any Benzes?
I sold a couple. I was only there for a few months, and then the owner, ran the business into the ground. She inherited it from her father, and she wasted all the money gambling. She got shut down. Like she
Gambling,
went to
cocaine.
Yeah.
She went to jail for tax fraud.
Oh,
and
did
shit.
she really?
Oh yeah.
Shoot, there's a Lifetime movie on that, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but that bridged me between, and then I went to work for Sports Authority, which was like, just a different frying pan on the same stove. It was almost all of Circuit City migrated over there,
Right.
So I was working for all the same people. I was just selling sporting goods instead of TVs,
Right.
and I'm thankful, as always, for the shot I got over there, and the people I worked for and worked with, but it wasn't really a progression for me. I spent another whole bunch of years just doing the same thing, just under a different label.
Because retail sucks the life out of you, man.
Yeah, it's.
I bet you $100 has taken 10, 15 years off my life easy.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever recovered.
I got to a point, and it was probably early on at Sports Authority where I was obsessed for a while at Circuit City. Like I just wanted to keep going. I was going to be like the next president of the company.
Yeah.
And I realized what it was doing to me personally, and just my demeanor and who I was as a person, and having a kid is life changing on its own, but missing things when you have
all
a
the
kid
time. God,
is very eye opening, and as that really started to get to me, as I had my first kid and my second kid, and like I'm missing baseball games. I mean, my middle son, he played 2 seasons of baseball. I never caught a game because they're all on Saturdays. You don't take Saturdays off in retail, but even prior to that, I got over the, live to work and move to work to live. And that was a little life-changing for me, literally. And I didn't obsess anymore. I did my job and I did it well. But I was happy with where I was. I was happy with the money I was making. I wasn't going to, if what I did earned me the right to move up, that's what I was going to do. But I wasn't going to obsess over it. I was going to lose any more time over it or any more sleep over it. And that's what I did. And then eventually, I told myself, well, by the time I'm 40, I'm not going to be in retail anymore. I'm not going to miss any more Saturdays. And then I moved into banking, which there's still some Saturdays here and there, definitely no Sundays. And that was, now I'm Monday through Friday and couldn't be more thankful. And God bless those people in retail. And it takes a special type of person to be there.
It does.
And you earn some valuable life skills.
Sure.
And I think everybody should spend a couple, like a year or two in retail because of what it does for you, just as a person, professionally and personally. And I still have people that are out of retail and they thank me. Like I have people search me out like 10 years later. Like, man, I want to thank you for what I did. I'm like, what time? Like, I was so hard on you. You got me when I was like, a ruthless manager. And like, no, man,
that's a real phase. I went through that too.
Yeah, but it's
like
brutal truth.
Yeah,
Like,
you helped me grow, and I'm like, man, that's one of the best compliments. I'm like, because, you for one reason or other, you stopped working for me. And, every once in a while, in retrospect, I'm like, I was like total asshole, that guy, or this person, or, all of them. And, it's like one of the biggest compliments to have someone, search you out. And I'm like, okay, I did do a good job, even if, the numbers weren't there for a month or whatever. Like I have these people that, they attribute, a certain level of success or even just one part of their life. Like this guy who like ran a retail store when you were like an 18-year-old kid making like $10 an hour. And, I did something meaningful for you. And I couldn't ask any more, out of what I did when I was in retail and where it helped me get, which was, the perseverance and, the job I'm in now. One of the interviewers flat out told me that I have nothing that he's looking for. He doesn't know why I was in that interview. Because I knew I didn't want to be in retail, and like I was at a bank, and the bank was closing, not as a whole, but the branch, and I really liked working for that bank. So I held out to like the very end because I was hoping they find a spot for me, but they didn't because they were consolidating.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I've applied at this other company a couple of times. I'm going to give it another shot. I heard they're hiring. And the guy's like, he's like, you know what? He's like, the only reason you're here is because like I told the recruiters, just open up the floodgates, take off the screens, I want to see what's out there. Right. And he's like, well, you don't have anything I'm looking for. He's like, why should I hire you? And at that point, I'm like, well, what do I got to lose here? And I just, again, I just took my retail background and I was like, because I can do anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, look at my resume. I'm like, I worked in retail for 20 years. I'm like, how many people can say that they put up with that for 20 years and went through all this stuff? I'm like, and then I transitioned to car sales. And then I transitioned to banking. None of those things have anything to do with each other. Oh, and in the middle of all that, I started my own business and it's successful.
Yep.
I said,
drop the mic.
Yeah. I was like, I can do anything. Because I was like, what do I got to lose? And they called me back. And, not that guy, actually, the other interviewer. She's like, I want you. He's like,
yeah. Well, when I used to go in for an interview, I used to say, listen, at the end of the day, I'm just some guy at the other end of the table telling you what you want to hear. I go, simple as that, right?
Yeah.
I go, but in the state of Massachusetts, I have a 90-day review. So 89th day, you can launch me for anything. If you don't like the color of the shirt I'm wearing today. I said, so you really don't have anything to lose other than a little bit of time, right? I said, but again, being in retail, you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to learn to think on a dime. You're managing people. You're managing,
You're managing young, old, every
You're
age.
juggling a million balls every day. Like you don't know when you unlock that door at 9 a.m. or 10, you have no idea what is coming at you for those next 12 hours.
That's the point.
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know who's coming in, what they just went through.
Yeah.
you know, are they getting this out of impulse? Are they getting this because somebody told them?
Yeah.
I just had I'm pissed off. I'm gonna, you know, and of course you could be smart on your end and be like, what are they, you know, what do they get? I could see they want to get everything. You know, you could go that route, but you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah. My craziest story was when I got into a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, my mentor, kind of my father, got me into Michaels. And I remember the interview was pretty simple. The guy didn't impress me. Like, he wasn't a hugely smart guy, but so one thing that I can't stand, right? If you're going to put somebody in a brand new environment, I think training them is the least you could do, right?
That's step number one,
right?
You have to.
That's step one.
And quality. So I get stuck with this guy, and first day I meet him. So the story even gets even better. So I was supposed to go fix a broken store in Newington, Connecticut. So my DM calls me and says, by the way, there's a news store that I want you to open. I'm like, news store? I don't know anything about your company.
I don't know how to run an old store.
But again, forward motion, like, I'm going to do it, and I'll muddle through. So, and my mentor who got me in the company, I knew I could rely on him. So I'm like, I'm just going to do it. So I've only been married for like a couple days. Then I got to get to Dallas, Texas for, not to mention the fact that I almost died in a plane. We blew an engine.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I'm already this shit's already getting real, right? So I get down there, spend a week down there, come back, and I get matched with this trainer. He throws some books at me and says, "It's not my job to train you. There's your books. You go out and meet my staff."
Damn.
I remember calling my wife later on. I'm like, I'm fucked.
This is a big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just ruined my career with this guy. So I did everything I could, and he was just a dry old man.
Yeah.
Like, he was that old school, cut the box open, throw it on the floor. He did a lot of he worked a couple of big box retails. I mean, the guy was a smart guy. I'll give him credit. But for a trainer, this guy just wasn't.
Yeah,
the
he was
guy.
throw the baby in the water, let it figure out.
Yeah.
Let it swim.
And thank God the people in the store kind of took me under their wing, showed me everything, because we have 3 businesses in a business. We have the frame shop, custom floral, classroom, plus our regular business. So years go down. Me and this guy really don't talk. It's awkward every time I see him. Me and the DM we don't get along, right? So every time he came into my store, he'd just hammer me over the most ridiculous things. So he finally leaves. He goes to a different area, and I get Kevin Walsh, who to this day is just one of my, I think about Kevin all the time. It pained me to leave the company when I left because I was leaving him. I would have followed this guy into hell if that's where he said we were going. So my zone vice president he was a tough guy. He demanded a lot out of everybody. So when I worked at Caldors, I had to work with him, and I remember how ruthless he was. Like, then I say ruthless, but he wanted things done the right way. There was no excuse for not getting.
There's no gray area.
Yeah,
It was black and white. Like,
exactly.
This is it. Yeah.
Yep. So he became our zone VP, and he did a surprise visit. I was in Florida. I told my assistant manager, to this day, I love her to death. She's actually, I think she's an assistant at Hobby Lobby now. You better make sure the store is fine, because I'm telling you right now, every time I go on vacation, I either get an audit or a visit.
Oh, it's always how it happens.
So-
Yep. That's the number one rule of retail right there. You're going to get visited when you're on vacation.
And I had some problems with some other assistants that didn't feel like they wanted to pull their weight. They were good, decent people. They were just in that mindset of, you're the store manager, it's your ass. I'll just coast to that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure they were always prepared for that next level. So I come back. My boss says to me, yeah, by the way, we're in your parking lot. I'm like, oh, man.
Hell no.
So he comes in and loved the store. So next thing I know, I get promoted to the store that this guy trained me in, because now he's retiring. They told him to leave.
Yeah.
So I remember the first day I go walk in there, because they want me to work with him for 3 days. And I'm just like, this is going to be the longest 3 days of my life. And I remember sitting in his office, and he didn't want to talk to me. I said, and I was a little bit of a wise ass back then. And I said to him, how does that make you feel that you screwed me, told him that I wasn't paying attention the whole time, and I'm in your store now taking this over? How does that make you feel? And he just looked at me, and really didn't answer me too much. So then years down the road, I win best of stores. So that's how I became the district mentor, because we had a failure rate like you would not believe. 65% of our store managers would get turned over every year. Yeah. We can't be a profitable company and grow at that rate. So we were publicly traded. So that morning I got our package in the mail that showed what our stock options were, and I always flip to the back to see where our turnover rate is. And I look up, and there's my zone VP walking in again. I'm like, man. But he was the kind of guy, like, if you had a problem, you better have a solution. So he wanted to know what the stock options were, and I was more worried about the turnover rate.
Yeah.
So I said it to him. He goes, all right, so what's your solution? And I said, well, we should really pick out the top people from every district. And of course, I'm trying to get some more money out of the thing. So I'm like, pay him a little extra jing. That never happened. But I've gone on to help other stores. And so I walk in and I see a store manager. I'm like, how long you been here for? Oh, like a couple days. And the store is beyond help at this point, right?
It's a dumpster fire.
Yeah. And you know what those look like.
Oh, yeah.
You've been retail too.
I was
the
fix-it guy.
Yeah.
This store's burning down. Go fix it.
And I used to say to that person, I'm so sorry because you're probably going to leave in a couple of weeks. And I wanted to stop that process. And I became the district mentor, which was a huge thing for me. Like, I was able to help grow people and get people to where they could function after being put in a shitty situation. And I was also blessed to have a phenomenal DM at the time. It took me a while to get there. I went through like 7 DMs in 1 year. When I met him, I remember saying to him, well, it's been nice knowing you, but the 6 behind you that have been here 2 weeks. And he turned around, he goes, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. And they put this guy through the ringer. And he had a way of motivating you where he was a little bit of a smart ass, but I appreciated it. It wasn't, he could have yelled at you. He could have done all those other things. But he would throw a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of humor, but you understood. You're like, gotcha.
It was like that welcome condescension. Like, I'm going to lightly tell you suck.
Yeah.
To help you get better.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, because they used to grade us A through D, and you didn't want to be a D because that was a bad day. But I would get this consistent Bs, right? And I'm like, I'm an A store. Like, I travel other stores. And so I sat him down one day. I was pissed. And he's like, I knew you were going to sit me down one of these days. You're an A store. I'm not telling you that. There's things that you need to work on because you're the kind of person where I'm going to keep going. Right. We're going to get to the next level. But if I told you you're an A, I don't ever want you to back up.
Yeah, you shouldn't plateau.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so if you put any other store manager in this place right now, they're an A, but I know you're better than what your store is right now, even though it's an A, by standards. Yeah, no, it's
And from that day, I was just like, and you're a mentor.
Yeah.
So you know what it's like to motivate and
dude, you're like a super mentor. I mean, you're
on a daily basis, man. But you can't. But like you said, you couldn't be told you were an A because if you heard that,
you might sit back.
You're gonna sit back and be like, well, shoot, what? I can't get any better than this. So what else is there for me to do? But to tell you that you're a B, you're like, damn, I got to keep pushing. I got to keep working. I got to keep working, even though part of you knows, like, hey, this is actually a store, but I got to keep pushing. I got to keep pushing because once you stop and settle, like you say, you're going to plateau. And then all of a sudden you got all those C's getting better, all those B's getting better, and they're just creeping and they're creeping and they're creeping. And it's like, you're just sitting back like, hey, what else you want?
All the time.
And next thing you know, there's an army of B's and C's that are coming up on you. And you've been taking it easy for the past couple of months, for this quarter or whatever.
I get my ass kicked on a DM visit. And then like another store manager will come in my store and be like, dude, your place looks better than mine. And I'm like, that's what I thought. Like, I know my place looks better, but, again, it's like when I was never told like that, like, I know you're an A. It was always just, but again, retrospect, like, it was because they knew I could do better. So they knew it was going to push me because I never wanted to be that B. So even though I thought my shit was perfect, they wanted me to take it to that next level,
And like loyalty, I think people, especially now, don't understand loyalty like we had to go through loyalty, man. But loyalty is what got me when Lechmere closed. I stayed right to the end. And you want to hear something funny? My store manager of that store, and I was 21 years old back then, right? So I was more into drinking and dating and going crazy than I was, doing my job. And that store manager who closed that store ended up working for the company I am now. And I found her through an Instagram post. I'm like, no way. Then I'm thinking to myself, God, I was a punk back then.
Yeah.
You know, even though I was a hard worker.
What did I do? What did I say? Like,
Yeah.
what is this person's opinion of me?
You couldn't get me to, if I didn't want to do something, I just wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her through an email first, and we were on our way to Florida for a big event, huge event. And I said, do you mind if I pull you to the side when I get there, just so I can, I need to get something off my chest. And she's like, yeah. And she didn't remember anything. She goes, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
She goes, I remember you, but I don't remember you that way. She goes, I do remember you got mad up one day about an inventory. I'm like, yeah, that was my inventory. And you told me to get out of there. And she goes, and that was wrong for me to do that. But in my mindset, I had a goal I had to meet, and I just ran over you. And she goes, and I do apologize for that. She goes, but you told me that you were upset. But it's kind of funny how it's a small world. So I closed Leechmere, and then one of the guys that was one of my managers had a friend that was running a Caldor. It was his cousin. So he called me up and he's like, I might have a thing for you here. My mic sounds really low. So that's better. So he gets me the interview, and I wanted to take the whole summer off. I had an in-ground pool in the backyard. I worked for the guy that closed the building. What do they call it? Liquidators.
Yeah.
I had like $3,000 for a bonus to stay back then. That was a lot of money when you're 21 years old that many years ago, right? I could have took the whole rest of the year off, plus unemployment, lived great. But that mindset was, I have a child. I take care of his mother. I got to get a job. There's no taking time off. So I went for my interview, and I got it a couple days later. And, you know, it's funny. I go into the interview with, I want this much money, this much money. They offer me way lower, and I'm like, yeah, great, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Right.
Because it's a job.
Right.
Right.
And then I meet Jim Buckley, who took me under his wing. Then Joe Musa, who ended up being like a father to me. So you start meeting these people that all of a sudden come out of nowhere, and that loyalty to this day is strong. Like, if Jim Buckley told me to come rake his lawn right now, I would go do it.
Yeah.
You know, Joe Musa, he was just up here, but we couldn't see each other because of COVID. I got compromised twice. You know, I had to go for testing. That really pissed me off, but it is what it is. We're in that environment.
Yeah, man.
But it's amazing. You know, people don't realize what it took to work a 12-hour day or longer.
Then go out drinking.
Yep. Or you got to visit the next day.
Yeah.
Go home, get 2 hours of sleep.
When is that 12 hours? When are you getting up? You know, and then when are you leaving? You know, you got to think about that in there too.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked at Circuit City, the better part pretty much almost the entire time, we worked at least 7:30 to 10 every single week.
Easy.
So you worked 2 8 to 5s, 2 12 to 10s, and 7:30 to 10. That was my schedule for probably 7 of the 8 or 9 years I was
Wow.
And then you probably had some clopins in there too that freaking close open shit.
That's the 7:30 to 10.
That's
Yeah.
what we call it. That's
we're gonna write this
that's
down.
we use that Nike.
Clopins,
That's what we call that Nike. Clopin.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Black Friday, I mean, Sports Authority, that was probably one of the worst. So thankfully, I worked in Massachusetts and I worked at the mall. So, you know, Massachusetts has their own laws, and then the mall has their own, you know, hours.
Right.
So if you're going to open earlier or later than the mall, there's like fees involved. Excuse me. So I was always like, oh yeah, I got to stick with the mall. Even though they told me like during the holidays, no, we don't look at that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Connecticut stores, they were open on Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then even, you know, eventually in Massachusetts, the last couple of years, we started opening at not midnight. Couldn't have your employees on the clock at midnight. 12:01.
Yeah.
We're open.
Yeah.
But I had to be there at 11 o'clock, get everything ready.
Yep.
You know, I would work
Find them loopholes, man.
11 p.m.
Disgusting.
and I would stay till 8 p.m., 9 p.m. the next day just to make sure that like I was going to hit that number.
Yeah.
I mean,
That number on that day was huge.
oh, that's
Remember all the phone calls?
Oh, every hour.
How you doing? How you doing?
I had to send an update every hour, like via text, email, whatever, to to the DM, like where you at? You know, and if you weren't like trending, right, you were sending updates more than every hour. And yeah, I don't miss that at all.
No, the pressure, man. was.
It was exciting. It was exhilarating. Like I wouldn't trade that time really for anything. You know, again, going back to like, you know, where it got me today. But
it's a learning process.
like if you told me that I had to do that again,
yeah,
like next year, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be living in a van down by the river.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I'll live in a shack. Yeah. One thing I miss though, and I really passionately miss this, is having that team.
Mm.
You know,
or I was gonna say forming with who you have.
Yeah, like it was like a battle cry, especially going into like that last 6 weeks of the year.
Oh.
I mean, like that momentum, that energy. Like if you were doing it right, you know, if you had that team. You know, sometimes you got that dead weight. I mean, that happens in every environment when you're driving a team. And I mean, you're a coach. I mean, you know, like you know,
there's some luggage.
You got some luggage.
I hate to say that to some of y'all out there, but there's some luggage on some teams.
You know, and that's you know, but there's always your top 20 and your bottom 20. Like no matter what, they're always, and maybe your bottom 20 is fantastic. And that's the goal, is to have your top 20 still be better than, or your bottom 20 be better than everybody's top 20. But you still have a bottom 20. And but to know that, you know, you would go into like those last 6 weeks and have that team, and you're just like, you know what, man, I've been training for this all year. You know, you're like, you know, you're that prize fighter, and you're like, I'm so ready. And you know, and the other opponents are like the people in your district. I'm like, I'm going to show these people what I've been working on this last year, how I've been working out every morning in my morning trainings. And like, I miss that. Like, you know, now in my job, I think it's probably one of the other things that I love most about what I do now is I'm an individual contributor. So for the first time in like 20 years, I'm not in charge of anybody but myself. So it gives me more time to develop myself and make myself better. Like I've been spending most of my career helping other people get better. Don't get me wrong, I was getting better at the same time, and I love that, you know, like that drive, and that's what I miss, is like me helping other people get better. And I still do that with all my peers. I really do, you know, like if I know the answer, if I know a better way to do something, like I'm the first person to be like, no, let's look at it this way. Right. But I like sitting back on days when I'm just like, okay, I'm only responsible for myself. Like, and you know, you said it, like you go on vacation when you're in retail, like the littlest thing that someone else does, you're responsible for. It's your show. It's your four walls, you know, and I don't miss that part at all, but I do miss like people getting better, you know, in those trainings, and like, you know, getting ready, that rally cry, like we're going to kill these last 6 weeks. As much as I hated the hours, the excitement, you know, that's what carries you through, you know, that 15-hour day,
it pays off,
that 17-hour day, that, you know, that Q4 bonus.
That bonus was, you know, it made you mental, but it when you got it, I remember having an argument one time. Well, it wasn't really an argument. It was one of my full-time staff members said to me, "You make so much money." I go, "How much money do you really think I make?"
Yeah, there's always that disillusion.
Yeah, I said, "Okay, take my bonus out of it." I said, "You make at that point in time, God, I don't remember what it was, $7 an hour or whatever it was."
Yeah. When you divide the hours, I used to do that all the time. Okay, you work 28 hours, 30 hours. This is how many hours I work. Then do the division. Yeah.
And I said to her one day, I said, "When you leave here, how much do you like worry about this?" She goes, "Nothing." I go, "Okay, fair enough, right?" Like when I leave here, my phone doesn't stop ringing at my house. My managers will call constantly. And that's when I really started to empower them. And I remember one day, Gabrielle, who I love to death, she called me about something. I said, "Gabby, let me ask you something. You think this could have waited till tomorrow?" And she's like, well, you know, the perception versus reality thing. Yeah. And I said, "Is the store on fire?" She goes, "No." I go, "That's great, right?" You're good, you know? Yeah. And she's like, "Yeah." I go, "So what decisions did you have to make?" "Well, I had to give somebody a discount." "Okay. Just notate it down in my book." You're empowered as a manager to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, at the end of the day, if you call and tell me I don't have to come to work tomorrow because the store's flattened because of a fire, that's the reason to call me.
Yeah.
I'm never going to chastise you for giving somebody 30% off because, you know, we inconvenienced them. Let it ride, man. But it's that thing of like, it's coming out of their pockets. They always felt like if I give a discount, like I'm taking it from them, you know? And as long as we don't abuse that, it's okay to when we do that because we're taking care of a customer, you know? And so the next morning I came in, and so I knew I was going to get a little confrontation from her. But she's like, "I slept on that, and it totally made sense." Yeah. She goes, and I kind of went back in my head, like all the times that you told me just to make a decision. And I was like, "Well, what does that mean? What does he want me to do?" She goes, then I got it. Like, I go, Gabby, you're me when I'm not here.
Yeah.
That's why you hold
That's
keys.
that's the whole point, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I
It's
trust
that
you.
empowerment. Yeah.
And I
it's-
said, her worry was like some of the under people would have seen her make a bad decision. I go, they don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
So bring me in the office, close the door. We'll talk about it. We'll make a plan for next time. You're good to go. You know?
That was a growth moment for me in retail was, and we talked about earlier, like, always being the chess moves, always, strategically, we always have the plan, and very few things bogged us down. And, you talked about your challenges through COVID and, everything weighing down on you. A big growth moment for me. And it was, I think it was a book I read about management. And it was about empowerment. And it was, instead of just like, no manager ever came to me or any subordinate came to me with like a question where I couldn't be like, this is what to do. But I had to slow myself down and just be like, what do you think you should do? And that one question, like the amount of, it shifted, so much worth onto the person, especially when you could very easily say after they told you, that's right, go do it.
Yeah.
Or again, not throw the answer right out, even though you already know it because you've been doing it for years.
Yep.
Just maybe coach it a little further or back it off a little bit, depending on, maybe it's not 30%, maybe it's 25% off.
Sure.
Be like, well, do you really think the error you made is 30%? I mean, how much is the transaction? What's our margin? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But, well, let me ask you something. What do you think you should do? And when you can come back after they give you the idea and be like, that's 100% right. That's exactly what I would do.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's off a little bit, just, giving that self-worth right back to somebody, like, oh shit, I do know what I'm doing. And that was, again, back to development, what that did for the people that worked for me, instead of me just be like, they come to me with a problem and it's like, oh, this is the answer. This is the answer. It took a way more weight off of me because I just stopped getting those calls,
Right.
at 8, 9 o'clock at night, like, oh yeah, take 30% off. No one's even gonna notice. Where it's just like, and then eventually it was just like, okay, 10 out of 10 every time you say, when I ask you what should you do or what do you think you should do, you give me the right answer.
Yeah.
How many, and
Yep.
ask yourself, just a few different questions. Is it in the best interest of the business? And is it in the best interest of the customer? If you can answer yes to both those questions, then you already know your answer.
Yeah.
As long as you're not benefiting from it personally, well, then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Did I make the right business decision? Did I make it right by the customer?
Mm-hmm.
If the two answers there are yes, well, then you can't make the wrong decision.
That's a good point,
Right.
man. That's a good point.
So what's your key for motivation?
Well, I'm going along with what you guys are saying, and it's also with who you have as the assistants or the vices or anything like that. Is it also makes them feel like they mean something too. You're not just the one taking control. You're not just the one making all the decisions, and again, you may not be there all the time. You could leave the store, you could leave the business, it could be on vacation, or you could be on your way home, and they're there. But it gives them that empowerment that they actually mean something too. I do that with my assistant coaches constantly. I went from in the first few years being involved. I was like, all right, this is what it is. You got to do this. This is it. This is it. This is it. Here it is. And they just sit there and be like, okay,
because you want to win.
I'll take it. I'll take it and run with it. Where I've been realizing, and again, there's a reason why you have them with you, number one. And if you're the one that is choosing, voting, picking, interviewing, selecting, you're doing it for a reason.
Right.
So who you have that's with you. So once you have that power team or once you have that power crew or whatever it is, start to divvy, certain information to them. Let them take charge, whether it's a day, a week, or whatever. Let them do what they can do versus, here, I'm going to hand you this. It's already, here's templated up. Here, you go deal with it. It's like, no, come up with an idea. How about you have an idea? Come up with a workout. Why don't you have this for them? And actually, that's what works with us a lot, is because some of the coaches that I have now, shout out Leah, shout out Jen, is that everybody, they have fun with it.
Right.
They look forward to it, versus like, well, I can just sit back and relax. Griff's gonna give me something that I can just pass on. But no, they're like, hey, I looked this up. Oh, I dug this out, and I'm finding this. Oh, I'm finding this one. Oh, this is a cool thing to do with them. This is it. Not only is it beneficial for again on my end the coaches, but the kids look forward to it because they're like, we got something good. We got something planned. Like the energy is always high. Like you guys know me, I'm freaking. I'm high energy.
Yeah.
So once we get that going with everybody, like that's the culture that you have. Like that's the brand that you have, and it's again what team that you have or what events you're looking forward to. That's where it heads to.
Right.
And again you have to let them take the reins a little bit. You can't always be up there like barking all the time, and it's like let them have some fun with it.
Yeah, because people start to lose their value. They
Right.
really do. Like
Right.
if you're just always running, like, why am I the assistant then?
Yeah.
Like I might as well just be like,
Yeah.
another
Like,
person.
like
Yeah.
shoot, I don't
Yeah.
need to be here early. I can just
Yeah.
show up on whatever time for the staff meeting. Well, shoot,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna present anything, so I can just sit like, no, come to the staff meeting with you got a couple ideas, like let's bring it out. Oh shoot, now I gotta make sure I'm ready. I gotta have this planned, and I gotta have this taken care of. I gotta prep. I gotta have this ready. Empowerment, like and then where we've been going, here's the other point of it, is where we've been going the past few years is with women or with minorities or with anybody. It's like making them feel empowered, like making them feel like they mean something. And that's the other part of it too, is don't always be the one taking control. Let everybody else that's with you, have some control with it too. You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
it works. It helps, and that's what keeps the longevity. That's what keeps the loyalty that you guys were talking about.
Yeah, one of my favorite kind of aha moment was I gave a pretty big list to my assistant manager, but we had a huge crew on that night. And I remember the next morning she came in and she was like, fire was coming out of her eyes. So I said, whoa, what happened last night? And she threw the paper on my desk. How dare you give me all that shit to do? So I grabbed the list and I go, so I started laughing, right? And she didn't find that funny, but it wasn't like I was being disrespectful. It was like I go, hear me out. I go, what makes you think that this was all for you? I go, you're the assistant manager. You delegate these things to be done. I said, that's part of the process of getting you to the next level. I need to see if you can delegate these to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more worried about the outcome. I'm not worried about who you're giving it to, really. But those things need to happen, and that outcome needs to be a certain way.
You're the validator.
Right.
Yep.
And she just looked at me, and she storms out of the office, and she's crying. I'm like, all right, well, I'm never one to chase somebody when they're crying. I'll let them come back. So she was taking way too long outside, and she was a chain smoker, right? So I walk outside, and she was just ripping cigarettes like you would believe, right? So I walked outside. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm embarrassed. I'm like, for what? She goes, you would not believe I terrorized them last night because I thought you wanted me to get this all done. And I should have just called because I could have saved myself the sleepless night, me terrorizing the crew the night before, not getting what you wanted to get done. And I'm like, but these are all things that we go through. Do you think that at a certain point in time when I was going through the ranks, like I didn't get that same list, trying to get it all done when I had subordinates that I could help, as a team, get this done. And it was just another one of those great times where, she was so upset, but we got done with that. And she was on cloud nine the whole rest of the day because she got it.
Yeah.
And then I started to see a big change in her right after that. Like she understood what delegation was so she can get her own things done. So when we had a visit, I was not that kind of person like to go spazzy for a visit.
Yeah.
I just want to, if I have to work an extra hour or so, that's fine. But we're just tightening up the hatches a little bit, dusting this and making sure this is a little shiny. That's it. So first couple of visits, I think she finally understood, like, okay, all these things that I didn't see my other managers do, but now I get it. And I said, so these things are all engineered. And it's not like I thought of these things. I made those mistakes. Somebody who was smarter than me pulled me to the side and said, this is what you should be doing, and then applied it. You know, because I didn't have a college degree, so
neither do I. Yeah.
when I was in Caldor, I wouldn't for this thing called the Executive and Training Program. It was like a fast track to being a store manager. So I went against 187 people for one position. It was actually 2 positions, and I got it. Part of that interview was with my DM, Bernie Gogolinski. I think he's been passed by now. Bernie was feared in my company. So we walk in. So we're at a hotel room, right, at the Biltmore Hotel in Rhode Island. Beautiful hotel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you started off with a group of people, right, interviewing, and then you moved around this group of people. So you were in one hotel room getting interviewed, and these were very uncomfortable interviews. So I walk in, and Bernie was like 7 feet tall, right, literally.
Intimidating.
Yep.
Yeah.
From Texas, right, where the black members only jacket.
Yeah. Do you have a big belt buckle too?
Yeah, and rings, because he was in the diamond business, right?
Yeah.
He had all these rings, and he walks in and smoking a cigarette in the hotel room. And he goes, Plof, get in here, sit your ass down in the chair and shut up. So I'm like, okay, that's how he talked, you know?
Yeah.
So he goes, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. You got a problem with that? And I'm like, nope. And he was so tall, he could almost smoke into the ceiling vent, right? So he sits me down and asks me the first question. And he goes, I don't want to hear this bullshit that I have been hearing all goddamn day. I'm like, okay, what do you want to hear? So I just basically just told him straight up. And he's like, that's right. That's right. He goes, now, get your ass out of here. You got another interview to go to. And it was one of those things where I didn't sugarcoat it. You know, it was like, just here it is. And then, but so I got this weirdly weird mindset afterwards. So my mentor was there, and I got home a couple days later, and I had this like chip on my shoulder. I remember calling, because I met my wife at work, and I said to her, if I don't get this position, I'm going to quit. And I remember her looking at me like, what? Don't even ask me where that came from, right? I was afraid of failure. And if I failed, I was going to show them and leave, right? Instead of saying to myself, I just have to buck up and keep going. But I got the job. And I remember having that conversation with my mentor afterwards. And he's like, how do you think you got here? Like, you did all the right things to get here. So don't think that because you make a mistake that's going to, you know, hold you back. Because one of the things that Bernie said to me was, your friend that's in the other room has a college degree. And I'm like, yeah, she sure does. And I go, and she's very smart. I go, but I don't have a college degree. So you know what I had to do? I had to work 16, 17 hours a day. I had to do everything right. I had to be that guy that raised his hand during meetings and took all these projects on. And, you know, yeah, she's got a degree. And I go, and she's smart. So I don't know what to tell you, but that's my story. That's my life I had to do. That's the mental fortitude I had. And the next interviewer I went to didn't have a college degree, and he asked the same basic question. So I gave him the same basic answer. And he's like, you know, I don't have a college degree either. I get it. You know, they ended up picking both of us, which was kind of cool because I didn't have to compete with her. She ended up bailing out. Her husband was such a mental midget. Sorry for any midgets out there.
Not the mental ones.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And he couldn't take the fact that she was going to outpace him at work.
That happens a lot.
Yep. And she had to bail out. And she owns her own restaurant now. She's come full circle. She's not with him anymore. She's with somebody else. But she always had that in her. And she owns a business in Holyoke right on Northampton Street. Very, very smart person. So it was nice that she was able to pick both of us because we're actually from the same store.
Yeah.
It would have been a little awkward. But my wife was in that same program years before me. So did you meet your wife at work?
Yeah. I met her at Circuit City. She was my boss.
Hey.
Mine too.
Yeah. So
I was
I was working in the warehouse at Circuit City, and she had been transferred over / promoted into the store I was in and charge of the warehouse. And I was like, yep, yeah, you know, I want that to be mine.
Were you the store manager there after Lechmere closed? Or did Circuit City go before Lechmere? I think it was way after.
No,
right?
Lechmere went way before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bounced around. So I started working in the warehouse in Holyoke.
That was a busy store.
Yeah, and then I got promoted to be a sales manager and got transferred to Springfield. And then I bounced around quite a bit. I went I became like that fix-it guy,
Yep.
you know. So then I went to Buckland Hills, Connecticut, as a sales manager. Then I went back to Springfield because everything I did got torn apart, and I, kind of fixed some things there. And then I went to Newington, Connecticut, and worked for probably my best, one of the best mentors I had at Circuit City. And there's some great stories about that guy, Rich Mangaffis, a phenomenal salesman. Never met a salesman as good as this guy. And oh man, I could tell you a couple of really good stories that like give you chills about how good of a salesperson this is. And if you want an example, I'll give it to you in a minute. But then I went back to Springfield again, because it was burned down again. And then, I worked for a store manager who was like, dude, why are you still a sales manager? And I was like, well, actually, I kind of need your help with that. I'm like, I got a big mouth. Like, I know I'm good. And like, I get pissed off when people like point things out. Like when I get a visit and like people start nitpicking, like I'm defensive because I know I'm doing it right. And that's when he's just like, it's because they want you to be better. It's not because you're not good. It's because they like what they see. He's like, I like what I see, but everybody knows you can be better. And if you want to, there's two things you can learn from this. Number one, take that feedback just to be better, not as an insult. And number two, take it to keep your mouth shut. Cause he's like, I talk to my boss every single day, just like you talk to me every day. He's like, so if you were combative with me every day about the shit I'm giving you, the feedback I'm giving you, would you want to deal with that as a DM? Would you want to like pick up the phone and be like, how's things going? And like, maybe just pick apart a number or two and have you be, have it be an argument.
Right.
He's like, you need to bite your tongue. He's like, take it as feedback. If you know it's good, just roll with it and be like, okay, how can I improve this? Not take it as an insult. And, so I give that guy, Colin Miller, a lot of credit and calming me down, and making me a little more humble, I guess. And for, at one point, and so an opening ended up happening at, in, what the hell store was it? I think I ended up taking over Buckland Hills. Anyway, I took over a store. I don't remember because I bounce around so much, but the DMS is like, do you think he's ready? He's like, I've been a store manager for 3 years. Like, he knows more than I do. He's like, I ask him questions. He's like, of course he's ready. And that's really what, but my mouth kept me out of being a store manager for a long time because, pride.
Sure. But that's a natural reaction. It's like, I'm
busting my ass. Like, don't tell me I'm fucking up. Like,
I learned the same thing. I learned it the hard way, just the same. But when I learned to embrace constructive feedback, that's when my life started to change a little bit. And it's still hard to take. My boss now is very good. She's she's a great communicator. She's been in the business forever. So I really pay attention to what she says. And she has an interesting way of motivating and getting you to understand what the big picture is, right? She doesn't sugarcoat anything, which is I don't like that person that sugarcoats because I
do it.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't get through that.
Can't, man.
Drop some F-bombs. Like, just tell me.
Brutal truth.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the people that I work with, like when I go out in the field, they'll tell you that I don't sugarcoat anything. It's like, here, I'm here to help you with your business. If you don't want my help, that's perfectly fine. But what are your goals? And I never go in there to try to sell them anything. That's not my goal. That's part of my gig, but it's not my ultimate goal. What's your personal goals? You want to own a house? You want to own a car? Like, is childcare an issue? Yeah. Let's get to the bottom of that, and I'll show you how to increase your business in order to so these things become a lighter load on you. Because the majority of my customers are single mothers. And I don't really know how much help they get from their other significant others or exes, but I want them to be independently, wealthy in a way where they can spend that extra $100 without even thinking about it, stuff like that. So it's constructive feedback is huge, and man, I'll tell you, sometimes it hurts.
It's again, when you're working 12 hours, 16 hours, on some days, and someone comes in and picks that apart, that hurts, and it takes a long time to to be able to get past that, to just be like, you know what, this is to make me better. That, you know, even though I think, and I might even know that I'm great, you know, and I'm sure you deal with it a lot too. You know, you get athletes that you're just like, man, this person is, you know, top notch, you know, but everybody can improve. Everybody can be a little bit better. And you have to approach that, especially with, you know, there's always ego involved. And you have to, learning to put ego aside to make yourself better is the hardest thing, because your ego is what got you great in the first place 90% of the time. You know, but you need to take that step back just to get better. It's a crazy thing, you know, how that works, and there's a huge mental block. And now, you know, thankfully, you know, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'll take it all, you know, and I'll sift through it. And I'll take what I think is meaningful, and maybe some of it is, maybe some of it isn't, you know. But I'll find out, and I'll keep the rest of it in my little pouch, and be like, okay, this didn't work, you know, this wasn't as meaningful as I thought. Let me look at the next idea, you know. But it took me, you know, 20-something years in what I would call my professional career to, you know, be humble and know that every single thing, everything, no matter who you're dealing with, what they say to you, is a learning experience, and it's not a personal attack. There are some out there, you know, and those don't really, frankly, usually don't mean a shit, because they're coming from someone that, you know, maybe not, you know, maybe they're going through their own struggles, or they're not where you are. But you know, everything everyone says to me now is a learning experience, and it took me a long time to get there. It's you know, but now I'm just like, just keep bringing it.
The other part too is that you have to keep learning, and you said improving, and it's like you got to improve and you got to learn, because technology is changing. You know, there's things that 5 years ago are different than they are right now. So you got to keep learning what's new, what's the latest thing, what's the latest technique, what's the latest trend, what's you know, what is it? I mean, you can't use the same computer you were using 10 years ago. There's something different that's going to improve and update and make things quicker and faster. So, you know, whether it's like you always talk about going to conferences and sessions, and why do you go there? To learn what's new, to get what do I need to improve? What do I need to improve to make everybody else that's with me get better? You know, versus you got the other people that are like, well, I'm just going to stay what I know, and I'm stuck on strong, and I ain't going to do nothing new. That's why they're stuck. That's why they're in the back. That's why they're in the freaking slow lane right now, and everybody else is in the fast lane moving. Because you got it. There's always something new, and there's always a way to improve, to get yourself better. You know, I watch, you know, you take notes. I mean, there's times I watch stuff on TV. Mir knows when it's note time, because she'll hear the pause. Or I'll get on the phone and I'm like, I'm ready. You know, I'll put the phone up, like record it, or I'm sitting there like, well, let me jot this down real quick. I got a book, man, that's freaking full of just pieces of stuff here and there. Like, let me write this down.
And stuff
let me get this down. What did he say? What is this? What are they talking about? And you also have to think too that there's so many different genres and themes that are out there that can help you out. You know, just because you're in automotive doesn't mean everything I gotta listen to has gotta be automotive. You know, it's not that. You know, you can listen to somebody that's a leader in another field or another business that can help you. They might say something or do something that'll help you out. So
everything involves people. So if you're with people, and I don't think very few people work alone, like completely solo. You're always dealing with people. Like, I don't think there's a trade out there. Like, there's something out there that can help you cater what you're doing with that person. And I mean, you talk about like learning and evolving. Like, I mean, you know, Jeff and I just named off like 6 retailers that don't exist anymore. And if you look at like a checklist, that the top of the list is like failure to evolve is like why they don't exist anymore. I mean, if you're not learning, if you're not trying to get better, be it, you know, taking positive feedback, or, you know, or looking for different resources, taking notes, you know, on what you're seeing, you're gonna be back. You're gonna be the next Caldor. I mean, no matter what you do,
you can't be shy about it. Like, that's the other thing. Everybody's like, I'm too proud. I can't. What do I need? What do I need to go to that for? What do I need to write this down for? I'm too proud to do that. I can't. Please.
Yeah.
But that's hard.
You got to put that aside,
Yeah.
like you said about the ego. You got to put that aside.
Yeah,
you know.
I heard something yesterday. I put it on my Facebook page. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to try this right now.
Hey, there you are. I've been looking for you. You know you're supposed to stay on the road, right? That's how this whole thing works. You done got yourself lost, didn't you? Well, looks like you're lost anyway, doesn't it? But the fact is I found you to tell you that you're not lost at all. You're just in a season. Yeah. It's kind of like the trees that you see around us. They look like they're dead or dying, but we know that's not the case. We know that they're in a season, and come springtime, they're going to bloom again, and they're going to thrive again. And that is exactly what's going on with you right now. You're not lost. You're just in a season. You too are going to bloom again and thrive again. Believe that. In the meantime, gather your bearings. I'm going to leave some footprints behind, and they're going to lead back to the road. Don't quit. I'll see you at the next rest stop.
Preach.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
That's some good shit.
YouTube's going to flag that and kick me off for this, but that was huge for me. Like, people really, especially now with the corona, the world's upside down, people feel like they're lost, and you got to stay in your lane and keep going, because these are just mini roadblocks that are going to happen. You know, and who knows I don't know what next year is going to bring, but I know right now I survived 2020.
Right.
You know, and I always say I'm still handsome. So you know what I mean. So we're getting
Back to that, putting ego aside.
Here it comes. Let's do it.
Oh, here comes the wheel. So this is our wheel of topics, okay? And I just broke it, but that's fine. We'll glue that back on.
We still got a few more spots on there, man.
So every guest that comes on, you can take a look at the wheel and see how that looks. You can kind of guess. You can guess where we're going with this. So there's your marker. And put your place on there.
Oh, so I'm gonna add.
You're
something
gonna add
to the
something to
wheel.
that.
You gotta
Yep.
add to it, man.
We got truth or dare, fuck, marry, kill.
Hey, you got that one. You got that.
Who doesn't know what FMK is? I mean,
Yeah,
come on. Favorite sex positions, bucket list, death.
Favorite? Who put?
Elaborate on death.
That was Kenny.
Is that like how you want to die, death, or just like your feelings on death?
Yeah, like it can be anything about
yeah.
death.
And
really.
what embracing moments,
Embarrassing moments.
embarrassing moments. Okay. So I'm gonna add something here.
Yeah, add
huh?
something to that. Doesn't have to be profound.
Yeah.
It can be if you want it to be, but that's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, we need to just do a whole show, just spin that wheel, man.
Yeah. No, we're gonna go profound, because I guess it wouldn't be me, you know.
Get the water or vodka game, and then just spin that wheel.
Oh,
Let's keep doing
Jesus.
it.
Next thing you know, we're waking them up,
How do I word this?
shit their pants, and
You might have to have someone with good penmanship rewrite this, but
my penmanship is horrible.
If I do recall Brett from
yeah,
grade school and school days and handwriting.
I got a lot of F's, but like
It's Dr. Dumas.
I used to get a lot of G's in penmanship. Like they had to make up a new grade for me. So I added most defining moment.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
And you know, so there's a lot that's up. You know, there's a lot up for interpretation, and it can, it could be like your most defining moment in your career, most defining moment in your life. You know, but you know, if you were to pick a topic, maybe it's a topic that you're talking about currently, or whatever. You know, what's the most defining moment that gives you like your greatest opinion on, you know, whatever that subject is. And I'll use an example because I told you I would tell you the story about my mentor, Rich Mangafis, and this is my most defining moment as a salesperson because I love the story, and this one gives me chills every time I tell it. So I got, thankfully, he was the person who talked me into being a salesperson. Okay. I worked in the warehouse. He was a video salesperson. And he's like, what are you doing back there? He's like, the money is out here. He's like, the money is in sales. And this guy is like the most charismatic person I've ever met. And he got promoted to a sales manager. He's like one of the youngest sales managers ever promoted. and then became the youngest store manager in the company ever.
Wow.
And he helped me, become he pulled me out of the sales floor. He's like, come out of here. He's like, I'll help you, become successful. And then like, as soon as he became my sales manager, he helped me become a sales manager. But eventually I ended up working for him as a sales manager in his own store. And, at like 21 years old, he was a store manager.
Wow.
Running the second biggest store in the region out of 100 stores.
That's impressive.
And, excuse me, got a burp stuck, but he, at one point, big screen TVs, before plasmas and LEDs and LCDs existed, where that became our focal point. And I was the video sales manager, and we're in a store manager, sales manager meeting, like to talk about our strategy around big screens. And he opened his mouth and he's like, we're going to sell 100 big screens this month. He's like, me and Brett.
Wow.
He's like, and that had never been done. Like
No
across
pressure.
the country, no store has ever sold 100 big screens. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, we've been selling like 50, 60. I'm like, you're going to tell me we're going to double our business next month. And it wasn't even like a busy month. We're talking like, it was like May. It wasn't even like football season.
Yep.
And he's like, no, he's like, we're going to do it. He's like, I'm going to help you. He's like, I'm going to show you. And so he was there. He's like, we're going to park in big screens. He's like, we got ample staff. He's like, we got the right people in the other parts. He's like, I'm going to be with you. And there was this one moment where like these people came in and it was him and I, like a salesperson, it was like bouncing off each other. And this couple, and there's about 5 moments I could talk about. This one, like, just made me, like, it resonates as far as like, earning your customer's business.
Yep.
And basically what it was is, we covered everything, A to Z. You name it, there's no reason this person should have bought. And they looked at us and they're like, Rich and Brett, we really appreciate everything we've gone through. They're just like, we just feel like we'd be doing ourselves a disservice. We worked in Newington on the Berlin Turnpike, and there's, 5 other electronics retailers there. Best Buy was right across the street, just opened 6 months ago.
Yep.
Tweeter was there. Bernie's was there. You name it, like the heavy hitters in New England were there. And he says, okay. He's like, I totally understand. They said, we have to shop around. Like, we just don't feel like we, He's like, I got you. He's like, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. He's like, I'm gonna do this for you. He's like, I'm gonna get down on my knees right now. I'm gonna beg for your business. He's like, then I'm gonna get up, and I want you to leave, and I want you to go to every store that you just mentioned along the Berlin Turnpike. And when you walk in, they say, "Can I help you?" He says, "Yeah, I want to get your store manager." When store manager comes to you, I want you to, and they say, "What can I do?" I said, "Well, I want you to get on your knees and beg for my business." And tell me what they say. And the guy's like, fuck it. He's like, you don't need to say anymore. He's like, let's do it.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I was like leaning against the TV. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, does this happen? He's like, I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to beg for your business. He's like, because that's how bad I want you as a customer. He's like, but then I want you to go ask every other store manager out here to beg for your business and see if it's worth that much to them.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, we don't need to go any further.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Sold.
Yeah.
Sold. Damn.
Boom.
And like, I tell that story, like any training, whenever I was like training people to sell, talking about like earning the right to close that sale, especially like, the biggest mental block in salesmanship is just being like, why aren't we doing this? Like, I've given you all how have I failed?
Right.
What have I done wrong that you're not just like, let's do this? And that's huge, and we talked about I talked about being an introvert. Like for me to be like, just, I mean, for anybody, it's like asking that girl out on the first date or, wherever that first date goes, I mean, that's one example, but, getting the courage to bring it to that next step, whatever that might be, and in the retail environment, and a lot of part of your life, job interviews, all that shit. It's all about like asking for the sale,
right,
one way or the other.
Yep.
What do I have to do better to earn your business or to earn your respect or to whatever, and that was, I can't even talk about how eye-opening that was for me. Like, just ask that question.
Yeah.
And it's still not easy.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't easy for me even teaching people how to do it. Like then I had to go demonstrate it. But like when you got like this guy, he's your mentor, like, and he's a very successful person, saying, I'm gonna get on my knees right in front of you. I'm gonna beg for your business. That's how much it's $1,000 big screen.
Like, that's how much you mean to me.
Yeah, store has $30 million a year. I'm gonna beg for $1,000 bake street.
Yeah.
But you're important as a customer,
Right.
And that's
You got to make them feel special.
yeah. So that as a salesperson,
absolutely.
as a manager, that was my defining moment. And that like took my trainings, my development of people, and being able to teach people how to ask for a sale. That was like the moment. That was the example I used every single time. So that's what I'd like to see come out of that, out of the wheel is, what was your defining moment in your career, in your life? How did you get your wife? Whatever it is, like what took you to that point, and how does it resonate, throughout the rest of your life?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got one last thing before we shut this down. If you can go back in time and have dinner, this is my favorite one, with 3 people, non-family, who would they be?
Yeah, I feel like this question has come up a lot, in just different situations. Einstein, like Albert Einstein, has just always been an idol to me, and I would never compare myself to Einstein because there's no theory of relativity, hanging out in my brain. But he wasn't a great student. He wasn't a very successful person. He's like a mail clerk or something like that.
Yep.
But he had a lot of holy shit ideas, and a lot of them defined like the last century, in science. And, I don't think I have any of that in me, but that interests me greatly. What of his ideas have not been explored? And I would say Gandhi. And even though I'm not very well versed in a lot of what Gandhi has done, I like the conscientious objector, passive resistance, education, over what's the word I'm looking for? Over violence, and just kind of gaining a better understanding of your fellow man. And, I'd have to say MLK Jr. I mean,
that's been the staple right there, man.
I mean, the fucking man, like, just spoke poetry. His words just, if his words don't resonate with you, and how he spoke and how well spoken he was and the message that he had to bring, if they do not resonate with you, you really need to do some deep diving into, like who you are as a person. And I'm not trying to preach, and I'm no MLK Jr., but it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does.
Like you can't.
We talked about it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
Since day one.
object. You can't object to anything the man said. Like if you have an objection to it, again, you got some other things to sort out, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I say this all the time. Being violent or having that propensity for violence is easy to do, right? I know that what's more scary, like someone who's violent or somebody who has themselves under voluntary control, right? To know the fact that it's a lot harder to change who you are, like especially as a kid. I had a little bit of a rough childhood. I could have been that way. I went through therapy. I stopped all that. But if I would have hung out with the kids I hung around before I met Matt and our crew, I would definitely be dead or in jail because that's where all of them are.
Right.
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 So if you watch those videos of Martin Luther King Jr. and you see the presence he commanded
All the time.
with a lot of times not saying a word.
It's presence in essence, man. I say
Man,
I
that's
say it all the
powerful.
time, man.
Like I said, I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, but these guys like that walk around the streets and they do these Second Amendment audits. I can't get behind that shit. People before you have done way more than just that. And I get the premise of a Second Amendment audit. I just don't get behind it. You know what I mean? I'm not a big person for open carrying out in public. If I'm going to carry it, it's going to be a surprise. But people who can command that type of presence, and when he spoke, people stopped what they were doing.
Yo, if you
And-
can walk in a room and change the temperature,
Mm,
it's a wrap.
yep.
Yeah, and I mean, and I've gone both ways, violence and and nonviolence in my life, and I can tell you that the nonviolence, educated, calm response has undoubtedly worked out better.
It wins.
There,
It does. You have to be. Yeah, you have to think.
I'll make mine real quick. Shoot, look what I just went through.
Right.
I could have easily, as many people have asked me, why did I hit this guy? Why did I get violent with this guy?
well, I
Took the high road. Well, I had a guy the other night call me the N-bomb. Walk up to me. Don't know who the guy is.
What the fuck was this?
Collins, in West Springfield.
Just randomly walked.
Random guy walked up to
Should
me.
have gave me a call.
Walked up to me.
I said to him, "Did you introduce him to your fist?"
But see, this is what I'm saying. The many people that say, "Oh, you should have clocked it." First of all, the dude was 7 years old, so it's like, I would have breathed on this guy. He would have died. But I could take the freaking violent route. I've said this since that day. He's probably more pissed that
That you didn't go.
we
that route.
got up and walked away versus, oh, you know what, I'm going to go say something so he can hit me. Oh, this guy didn't hit me? Shoot. Now, now I look like an ass. I really look like an ass. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like you gotta be smart about it and use your mind and think.
Yep.
Use your mind and think, man.
I had a friend of mine on that's he's a shooting instructor, and we were just talking like at the end of the day, like I don't want to get a black eye. Like I got a lot of things going in my life that I don't want to miss. So if someone wants to start shit with me and I just walk away, why is that? Basically what we were talking about was I had a friend of mine on before that. I'll back up a little bit because it kind of puts more content into it. A friend of mine's gay, and we talked about how painful it was for him growing up, where he feel like he couldn't be himself, and his dad had a real hard time with it because guys are supposed to be this manly guy, and he struggled for a long time, and it really hurt me to hear his story. And I heard his story before, but when he came on the podcast, we got a little deeper with it. But to hear him growing up in school, how they treated him until like his senior year. Once we get through that facade of it's okay, like if I cry, it's okay if I watch, if I hug, like I'm a hugger, that's what I do. Once I let that go, and therapy helped me just let that go, I didn't have to be like, I know that if I get into a fight, what I can do, but why do I want to do that now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I lost that years ago, but when I lost that, I actually grew that much more because you tell me where to go. If I knock you out, what is that going to do for me?
Right.
Other than put me in a place where I'm probably going to be Bubba's boyfriend,
Yeah.
or or I'm going to lose my house, or
Right.
There's no growth.
there's no growth.
No.
Yeah, you know what I
got
mean.
more
So
to lose. You got more to lose doing something stupid.
yeah, like the other day I was at a gas station and I put some latex gloves on to pump gas, right? Because that skeeves me out now. And this guy that was a landscaper was on the other side of the pump, and he started laughing at me, and he shook his head. So normally the old Jeff would have grabbed him off the thing, so I walked up to him and I said, I don't know why you laughed at me, but I know people who have been on ventilators during this whole thing. And I don't want to get the whole conspiracy things, but this shit is real, and we know it's real. I hope you go to sleep at night knowing full well that you're pretty much an asshole for laughing at me. But like in my mind, like I didn't say that out loud to him, but I'm like, in my mind, I know exactly what I could do to you like right now.
Yeah.
But I had this power that I have of walking away. And then his partner that he was with said, dude, why do you got to talk shit to these people all the time? Like, you're lucky that guy didn't knock your teeth in. And I was so proud of myself because I heard it. I know I did the right thing, and I walked away.
You won, man.
But I don't have to be that guy. It would have been so easy for me to rip him off his trailer and do that. But again, there's no growth in that, man. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not teaching.
That's the easy way out, and and it's not the right way out. And hey, everybody goes it takes a long time to learn that.
You've grown, and trust me, I've seen you. You've grown to where you need to be, and you're still growing. But you look at you look at what you have. Somebody that has not, they would have been quick to freaking clock this dude. They would have been quick to freaking say something to him and clock him.
Yep.
In public, at a gas station, on camera, all this other stuff. Like, they're like, oh, who cares? Whatever. But you use your mind. You thought about it. You're like, I got this. This guy, like, for what?
Yeah.
For this POS? Come
Yeah.
on, man.
And my other one that kind of really was always sitting me, we were up in Lake George, and we're going down that main road where all the wax museum is and everything. And this guy opens up his car door and gets out, and I almost take him right out. Like, I pinned him in where he was like this against the car, right? My daughter was just a little baby. My son was probably like 8, 9 years old. And so out of frustration, because I got scared that I actually hurt him, I got out of the car and I was screaming at him. And, I didn't never touched him with the car. I went to go back up, and I went to go leave, and he punched the window right where my daughter was sitting. So I got out of the car again, and I saw, because I didn't know, but in New York, the cops have red lights and the firemen have blue lights. So I saw what I thought was a cop. So I ran up to the car, and it was a fireman. And so he called the cops for me. By the time this guy left, but I still know his license plate to this day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it out loud, but I'll say it off the air. But I swear on my mother, it's his plate number. So when the cop gets there, he goes, "What do you want me to do?" He was all aggravated, like he had to be there, right? And I said, "Here's his license plate. I want you to go have a conversation with him." And he's like, "To do what?" I go, "I'm trying to teach my son that me going after him is not the right thing to do. We are told that when this stuff happens, we call you, and then you can mediate that." And I said, "Or I know where he is. I heard him say something. He was delivering stuff, and I heard him say before I left where he was going next." I said, "Or I could go down the street and go take care of him."
Yeah, do my second instinct, or maybe my first instinct, depending on how I'm feeling. Yeah.
And he sat there for a second, and he looked up at me, and he goes, "You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. I'll be right back." And he went and found the guy. But after it was done, he came back, and he's like, "I get what you're saying." He goes, "I was just aggravated, like it was just another call." And he goes, "But when you said you're trying to teach your boy a lesson, as a cop, that's what we're trying to get through to everybody." And I get it. But I was breathing heavy, man. You're trying to work through that, if I could just teach him a lesson. But he wasn't the lesson I was trying to teach. I was trying to teach my boy.
And how much more frustrating is it that like you did the right thing and then you got some pushback, like, "Oh, hold on," So and then you second guess yourself, and that ain't right.
Right.
So thankfully it ended up, following the right course of action.
Yeah.
And it ended up in the cops saw where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, you could have very easily, and then you would have been in trouble, not that guy.
Yeah, and I get it. He probably sees so many tourists up there. It's probably a rat race all day long. I get it. But it's it's one of those things that kind of replays in my head all the time.
Yeah.
But I remember when I got out of the car, I had to pass by the boy's window, and that's what made me slow down and rethink. Oh God, what I was gonna do as I get older, man. The indigestion just gets worse and worse.
I'm glad I didn't have none of that wine, man. You guys are freaking acid everywhere, man.
Well, I switched to drinking. I don't drink coffee anymore. I drink oolong tea.
That's good stuff.
It's half the caffeine, so I don't get the craziness. I've only been doing this for a couple of days. I think this is my second or third day, but big difference. But I still get the indigestion. It's like, is this what getting old is like? And saggy balls.
You didn't feel like that at 39, man.
All right, man. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because we are at 2 hours.
I will, since I was able to plug my business. Yep. I will plug my son's business.
Oh, hey, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. What is this? Whoa.
Yeah. A budding 18-year-old entrepreneur.
Nice.
Okay.
He about a year ago launched his own apparel brand.
Nice.
With the help of our business and the use of our equipment and things in our coaching, but completely his design, his apparel, and he's become quite the TikTok sensation.
Oh.
And I couldn't be more proud of all my kids, but this is the first one to kind of come up with some great ideas. So bluebeeapparel.com. He comes up with limited releases every few months, and he just launched a new collection January 1st. It's based on, funny enough, when he was growing up, he had a little blue blanket that was gifted to him. I forget from
Blue
where.
blankie, my daughter had one.
But he called it his Blue Bee. So 18 years later, he came up with Blue Bee, and it's a little Blue Bee logo. BlueBeeApparel.com. He's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. He donates 10% of his proceeds to the Honeybee Conservancy.
Oh, wow.
Or 10% of his
Oh, that's right, because you do the bees.
Yeah. So,
oh, God damn it. We should have talked about
some
that.
honey.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you can have me on for another episode. It's fine. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, so,
I'm going to have to tell Vanessa.
I think we might have to keep going for an extra 15 minutes here. I got to hear about the bees.
Yeah, man.
But, I digress. BlueBeeApparel.com.
Blue Bee Apparel.
10% of profits. 10% of profits to the Honeybee Conservancy. Really cool designs. Again, couldn't be more. He's done it. Aside from the use of our equipment, he's done it completely. On his own, from marketing to video editing and everything like that. I mean, he's really kind of launched this thing, and it's steadily growing. But I'll continue to plug that as much as I can.
Absolutely. We'll get all the links and everything from you afterwards, and we'll plug everything into the podcast so people can click on the link and go right to his place and
buy some shit.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Friends taking care of friends. All right, we're going to shut this down. But when we come back, you better wear the bee thing to be on.
Well, you want me to wear some of his
Absolutely,
shit?
yep.
Yeah, so... And well, again, I'll digress again. I lost a ton of weight. So like one of his presents to me was he bought me, or he made me some of his clothes in sizes that like I was not yet ready to get into, and now I fit into them.
There you go.
So it's cool.
Yep.
So I'd be happy to wear them because it was like some goal shirts. Because after many years of not being able to fit into shit, I threw away a lot of my goal shirts.
Yeah.
So I got some new ones.
Nice.
And they fit well. But
Nice.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so
all right, man. Episode 14
Happy
is
New
in
Year.
the can.
yeah, Happy New Year.
Yes,
This is
indeed.
this is the second one of the new year, and we're going strong. So keep it going.
Rolling.
All right, everybody. Thank you for supporting us. Always like, subscribe, and the best thing you can do is share.
Just click all the buttons.
Just hit
Just
them all.
click them all.
Hit
Just
all
pound
them
them with your
buttons.
fist. All right, guys. As always, peace.